Welcome to Love and Trauma, the real deal. I'm Danielle Sebastian, best-selling author, coach, and yes, I've been through the marriage trenches myself. This show is all about how to actually deal with trauma in relationships and make it work without losing your mind. If you're ready for honest talk, no fluff, and tools that cut through the noise, tune in because let's face it, love can be a bit of a mess, but it's a mess worth figuring out. This is Love and Trauma, the real deal.
What do a trauma therapist, an orgasm coach, and a burned out pediatrician have in common? Honestly, more than you'd think. They've all been through it. And this month on the show, they didn't just share their wisdom, they brought the kind of truth that makes you pause, breathe, and say, wow, same. Hey, friends, it's Danielle, and welcome back to Love and Trauma, the real deal. And listen, May was stacked. We talked about how trauma lives in our bodies, how people pleasing and over functioning are actually survival tools, and what it really looks like to come back to yourself after burnout, chaos, or generational pain. So today, I'm recapping the episodes that lit me up, broke me open, and reminded me why this work matters. We kicked off the month with Garisha Andrea Stegler, and let me tell you, this woman is electric. Economist turned orgasm coach. Yep, you read that right. Trauma healer and the founder of the Empress O method. She doesn't just talk about healing, she embodies it. We went deep on pleasure, pain, grief, womb healing, and rewriting the stories we've carried for generations. It was one of those episodes that stays with you. Then came Ayla Fleming, a therapist who gets it because she lived it. Addiction, anxiety, a family system that taught her to overfunction and ignore her own needs. She broke down what it really means to untangle yourself from dysfunctional patterns without the guilt, and how to finally stop mistaking enabling for love. Her story hit home for so many of us. And then there was Dr. Lamia Kapi, a high achieving pediatrician who completely unraveled after years of overgiving, perfectionism, and unresolved trauma. Her honesty, next level. And in part 2 of our interview, we went even deeper into how her healing is now helping her recognize trauma in kids and support families who are silently struggling. This episode left me speechless, especially what she shares at the end about what we as a society need to do better for our kiddos. It's powerful stuff. And just in case you missed it, we wrapped up the month with some quick hit truths about how trauma shows up in our relationships and what actually helps when nothing else seems to work. So whether you're here for the first time or catching up, this is the perfect episode to hear the highlights and get a taste of what real healing talk sounds like. Let's dive into my favorite moments from May. And it was just adding steps in and learning tools about how you could better take care of yourself and what you deserved out of life, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Was
That,
it
that
hard? Was it hard for you?
it was
Tell
really
me
hard.
tell me how that felt, adding those
Yeah, it was
steps
really,
in.
you know, facing with what I didn't want to see, facing with the darkness I grew up, it was really hard. Sometimes it was much harder than be there
Being
when
in it.
when I was a little girl. Yeah,
Because now you know that it didn't have to be that way,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, yeah. And I was crying so much.
Yeah.
I was sometimes when I'm go to the ocean, and then something is coming up, I'm just shouting in the infinite blue.
Like
With
like mad? Like
Like
what do
yeah,
pain?
pain and anger, because I suppress
Yeah.
so much anger,
Yes.
and also sorrow. And sometimes, of course, self-pitying, because my nation, I'm also working in the last few years, also our transgenerational patterns, and also checking and looking at my nationality, because Hungarian nation in the history, it was a amazingly and incredibly suffering nation. There were the Turks, there were the Austrian, the Germans, and there were the Russians. So we were always a kind of like servant. We were always suffered. We were,
Suppressed.
yeah, yeah, and this is in our DNA. So therefore, it's kind of like extra what I'm carrying. And and when I and then by the time when I started to go deeper and deeper, I realized that it's worth to go deep. It's worth to face with my darkness and my shadow and my pain. Because after that, it's like so light, it's so opening, it's so expansive. And even it's harder to look at what I've done or what I missed, or when I felt that I made a mistake, or when I was in a shameful situation and I felt that I had to keep it as a secret, because if I'm opening up, yeah, this could be also connected to this pain that, oh my gosh, just not to be open because the shame could grow so much. And when I started to open up, then I just realized how much weight I was carrying.
That is no life. That is
Yes.
no life.
Yeah.
And by doing the work, look at you now. I
Yeah.
mean, you can see your energy and happiness and lightness. And that
Yes.
is so worth it.
Absolutely. So there is kind of like every kind of investment I've done, it's much more worthy than
And the
worth
pain.
than yes.
And the
Yes.
pain.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you
Yes.
talk about living an orgasmic life. So for someone who's feeling numb, disconnected, and traumatized, what does that mean? What does that mean?
Yeah, I love this question because several times I also asked the question that how, orgasm and trauma are coming together,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Tell me. Tell
Yeah,
me.
and why
Yes.
I'm saying that I'm orgasm coach and a trauma healing expert, and
Uh-huh.
also working with grief, because even not sexual trauma happened with us. Um, as I mentioned, it could be only just verbal abuse. Several times you got this, you are this and this and this, and you start to become one with that. And my father usually and even every single day that you are a whore, or he told to my mom as well. So I had no clue what does it mean, what did it mean, but somehow I felt. And therefore I was shutting down and then I was opening up, and so I was experiencing the edges. And uh, and I realized that first we need to do the healing work, and not like from fully shut down, fully disconnected from my body, fully with zero sex drive or have any kind of orgasmic problem. And I can tell that almost every women have some kind of sexual organ problems, or yeah, sexual organ problems in their life. So we need to do the healing work step by step, and this is how I'm creating a very safe space to really do the healing work, and then finding the safety inside of our body. It's something totally different what we were thinking safety means to us. Usually, the answer is that, safety, if I have a job, I have money, I have home, I have friends, I have a relationship, but these are outside things. So we need to connect with our body and healing our body. And everything is in our body what we are carrying.
So tell me, because you work with women, you started working with women, and now you're working with men. What does it look like in men? Is there a difference, or does it come, have the sort of the same, does trauma have the same sort of effects?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question, because it's really important to talk about men as well. And so
Uh-huh.
with men, the issue is that they learned harder to suppress their emotions, but they are so emotional. They have so much emotions, and they are also yearning for a true connections and as the shame to talk about that they were weak in some situations, or for example we are talking about narcissistic relationship, that men are narcissistic, but I have few clients, male clients, who are or were in narcissistic relationship with a woman.
Yes.
So it's like they are suffering much more, and it's harder
In
for them.
silence. Would you say it's
Yes,
more they're suffering in silence, whereas women
they
tend
are just
to,
talking, right?
yeah,
They are
yeah,
just talking, complaining, and the sharing
yeah.
the
It's just
same
different.
stories all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you do that. You
So
do
for
that work.
men, for men,
Yeah.
for men, it's harder to talk. And but if they, what I also experience, what they can feel, my energy, that I just want to see them as who they are, and holding them this safe and space, and they start to trust. And as I think previously I just mentioned to you that most of the time I'm the last person, because they tried so many different modalities and therapies and courses. And when they couldn't find the final results, what they were seeking for, then they find me. And so they lost a lot of trust, because they were promised so much, and the results were not aligned with the promises. So first we need to build trust and safety. And after that, they open up, and I can tell that their story is sometimes much more touching than, and also kind of like painful than women what they are sharing.
So tell me, where can people begin, with this,
Mhm.
especially if they're scared, skeptical, or just really, really tired? Where can
Yeah,
people start?
I suggest to start step by step, not forcing, and find a way. So I think the easiest, not so mystified ways. The easiest way, what I just mentioned, that with your habits, look at your everyday rituals and
Yeah.
habits, and the routines, and how you can create a little bit, just for a few minutes, slowing down, enjoying the moments. Especially if you are stressed out, how you can create more peaceful moments. When you can switch off your mind, even just any kind of body work, or going to the nature, or just drinking your morning coffee in peace. Just doing nothing for 2 minutes. Set your alarm for 2 minutes, and just allowing yourself doing nothing.
What I think I'm hearing you say, with somebody who just wants to get started but may not have, just really not trust anyone, you can start with yourself, doing
Absolutely.
some simple things that will get you back your senses. Stop, try and get you to not be so numb to things, and then be curious, right? With the universe, with yourself, about what those next steps could be.
But the world outside is so magical, and we are so worthy to really step into our full potential and experience as much as we can.
personally am an adult child of an alcoholic, and I found myself in adulthood getting into relationships and repeating some of the same dynamics of overfunctioning and codependency. Um, Finding myself being the fixer, trying to fill in the gaps, or with partners who struggled with substance use or mental illness themselves. So that's kind of yeah, that's kind of my story of why this became my niche, because it's something that I did so much work on myself. And I definitely noticed with my therapy clients that a lot of people were coming into therapy and were struggling with having those healthy boundaries with their partners or even with their friends or at work. So it was definitely like, I don't want people to have to go through as much research and podcasts and probably, to be honest, making their career a therapist to try to figure out like what was healthy and normal.
I'm interested because codependency, I don't know. I think people are confused by that term or see it in a really negative light. And so we don't talk about it as much as we should. What is your definition of, what have you identified as being codependency for you and for, the people you serve?
So I think people typically come to me when they're feeling anxious, depressed, and stressed. And they're usually thinking, what do I need from the other person in my life? Do I need to cut off a family member? Do I need to get my partner to agree to couples counseling? And um, I think it's very uncomfortable to focus on ourselves because I think for so long with codependency, what happens is we're focusing on the other person. What do all these people need to change? And once they change, I'm going to be okay. I mean, if that were possible, if we weren't human beings, maybe that would be just fine. But we can't control other people. And I think with codependency, we probably got some traction. It probably worked for a little while. Like my parent, maybe didn't drink so much, or maybe sometimes they listened to me when I spoke to them in a certain way, or when I screamed. But maybe the anxiety went away when I did some like anxious habits, or I asked my partner over and over again to give me validation, and it worked. But it works until it doesn't. When
And
we
you're
have
burned out.
oh, so
You
tired and
burn
burnt out.
out, exhausting doing that.
Right.
So I kind of like, do you like this term? So you're abandoning yourself to stay connected?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I think most of the time we're like, I will do whatever it takes to make this relationship work. If you're the overfunctioner, you think, I'm a good person. I can make this work. This is my identity. And, you know, this person's going to fit in my puzzle whether they want to or not. I'm going to force them into it. And, um, to be honest, it's not the most respectful thing to do to a loved one. And it really keeps people from growing. If we think about it the other way, like if someone was forcing us to do something, we wouldn't want to do it. We would actually probably start acting less mature. We would maybe act rebellious. And I think that's a lot of the times what happens. Or maybe the person just says, like, I don't want to have anything to do with you, or they shut down, or they get deeper into denial or shame, or, feel that even we're abusing them. So it's kind of can turn into a toxic dynamic.
I, have been married to someone with a trauma history, and we struggled significantly with all of the things, including me taking on some codependency roles in my relationship. And it felt like to me at the time that it was very out of my control to do anything. Like you said. So that's how I interpret it. Like this is out of my control. Unless he does this, we're not going to get anywhere. Unless this happens, we're not going to get anywhere. But it was at this one point when I realized I had more control over what was going on than I thought.
Mm,
That
yeah.
made the biggest difference for me, changing the framework from feeling so out of control It's actually, that made me feel safe for so long. But then I realized that actually, when I realized I had more control over the situation because I could control myself, that's when things really lifted for me. And I'm interested if you ever got there or if you see that with your clients.
It's so interesting what you're saying, and I'm curious about your story, and I don't know if it's, if we have the time. Um, but I'm always curious what is going to get someone to that turning point. Um, for me, I think I just got really tired of giving in. And so what I did is I thought to myself, in my romantic relationship, I need to do all the things that I want to do, and I need to just hope for the best that, my partner will meet me there. And so that took about a year of doing that. Um, and then I think I was able to remain calm enough just because I was so exhausted. So in those interactions with my partner, I spoke up for how I felt, but I did it calmly and it wasn't like repeating it over and over again. And I think they also got tired, even though they weren't, willing to stop drinking. And so in the end, I think it wasn't perfect. There were some blowups back and forth, but in the end, I think we both just got pretty tired. And we said, it's just not a good fit. With my parent, the situation was that I was seeing a therapist and I was able to use the Bowen skills. I was able to use I statements. I was able to remain calm. And then um, I think that one of the things that I did to kind of, for my parents' safety, that I kind of had to do legally, there were some medical issues. That person, that parent got so upset with me that they cut me off. But one thing in Bowen is just because a loved one does something doesn't mean I have to follow suit. I need to think about what I want to do. So I actually felt good about it because I would periodically keep some connection. I would send a text message and just say, I don't want to cross your boundaries, but I just want to say, I love you, saw this funny thing, made me think of you, done. So it was, having some sort of a connection, but also respecting their boundary, but also doing something that I thought would be the right thing to do. And in the end, it was really good because we were able to have some connection and I was able to not control and they were able to not be controlled. So, I think getting to that point can be really hard because the idea that we can't fix it for sure is terrifying because codependency tells us you can fix it, just do more, or just do this certain thing and then they'll change. And it usually works until it doesn't work anymore. So I think with clients, it's sometimes hard to get to that point. I don't know when they're going to get to that point, but oftentimes it's a leap of faith to try something different and to try something different for a little while and see if it changes anything. And it doesn't always, but sometimes it does.
You just nailed it on the head. I think that's exactly right. If the patterns just aren't working and what your responses are and they're not working, then I think it's time to look at, are there other things that you could try that might make a bigger difference? So let's talk just a little about that. You teased it earlier on about what some of those steps could be that you could start taking today.
Yep. So pause before reacting.
Yep.
Say what's true.
Yes.
Track your own patterns.
Yep.
Connect to people outside the system. And then expect discomfort and keep going anyway.
Oh, nailed it. Nailed it. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I know that this is going to really change some people's lives. I feel like the tools that you just gave are very practical and people could implement it today. And it's a very nice stepwise approach to making those changes that will make a huge difference. Thank you so much for what you do. Banging your head against the wall, trying to navigate the complexities of a relationship impacted by childhood trauma. It doesn't have to be this daunting. When you're married to a partner with unresolved childhood trauma, it can feel like you're walking on eggshells, never quite knowing what will set them off. No matter what you try, it feels like there's always something triggering another emotional response that seems completely out of context. And the harder you try to fix it, the more discouraged you feel. So what's the issue here? Navigating marriage with a trauma survivor is different. The love languages don't work. Date nights don't work. Self-help books don't help. But here's the good news. I've created something that does work. Something built from years of hard-earned lessons and real-life experience. Ready to take the first step toward real change? Let's talk. I'm offering a free one-on-one call where we'll dive into what's going on in your relationship and figure out a way forward together. This isn't just another quick chat. It's a chance to finally be heard, to share what you're going through with someone who truly gets it. No judgment, just real support. So if you're ready to start making sense of it all and find a little more peace in your marriage, book your free call now. Your happiness, your peace, and your relationship are worth it. Let's do it together. Your background and what you're doing today.
As you said, I am a pediatrician. I have been in the practice in Northwest Indiana for almost 30 years now. I am still going strong and very busy. I have myself suffered from burnout, and I was able to recover and live now a really beautiful, fulfilled life. And I found my calling, which I believe we have so many callings in our life. And I am now here to empower women, professional women in general, to learn about burnout, how to avoid burnout. And if they have been already burnt out, it's not a life sentence. There is a way out.
But if you wouldn't mind, would you mind telling me your personal story with burnout?
With burnout, sure.
Yeah.
It started. So I'm gonna give you how it started, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yes.
so maybe I'm gonna start from the end and then go back in my story. In 2014, I was declared a disruptive physician, and the hospital I was working for, they asked me to stop working. People in my office complained about me and how reactive I was, how angry I was behaving, which is completely true, by the way. What we did not know, I was not being disruptive. I was, but really it was related to my burnout. I was reactive. One of the people called HR on me, and HR intervened, and they asked me to go for full neuropsych evaluation. And during that full neuropsych evaluation, I literally broke down, and they decided that it's way more than just this is a human in crisis that needs help. And I was sent to out of state again to spend 2 weeks as an intense outpatient for disruptive physicians or physicians who are in crisis.
Is it a separate clinic? What is this like?
Oh yes. So so I did not know such a thing existed.
I did not either. No.
This place was in Kansas, in Lawrence, Kansas, and so I had to go and I was supposed to be there in intense outpatient therapy for 2 weeks for disruptive physicians or burned out physicians. The burnout was not even mentioned at that time. That's that's when you discover, disruptive physicians. So few physicians who have issues with, could be addiction, could be burnout, could be just reactive physicians. And I'm talking physicians from, like, who are ER physicians, surgeons, residents. I mean, it could be like anyone. I stayed for 9 weeks. I was there for 9 weeks. This is
You
how
have to
long I
tell
needed.
me how, okay, so the hospital basically talks to you and says, we find you disruptive and we want you to
This,
go to
mhm.
treatment.
Yes. So basically,
What?
yes.
Okay.
So here's, I have to give them credit though. Okay.
Okay.
They, in a way, they were concerned about me,
Okay.
but at the same
As they
time,
should be.
yes,
Mhm.
they were.
Mhm.
They were concerned about me.
Okay.
And because and I'm going to give him credit, the CFO at that time, he's no longer the CFO. The CFO at that time, he knew me for years and years and knew who I am and how
Okay.
I practice and how I care, how much I care. And they paid for everything. So
Okay.
they sent me and they took care of everything. But again, what was supposed to be 2 weeks was 9 weeks, and I stayed away from my son, who was at that time 11, for the entire 9 weeks.
Tell me what you were thinking at that meeting.
At that which meeting?
The meeting they told you that
with the
they
CFO?
were worried about
Mhm.
you and
Yes.
they wanted you to get treatment.
There's two things. I surrendered. Okay.
You did.
I was, there's two feelings, two separate feelings. And this is probably the first time I talk about it, by the way. Thank you. I had two feelings between denial and anger, because I know how good I am. And this is my payback. I have done so much for the community, for the patients. I dedicated my life as a pediatrician and obviously as a mother for my children. And this is how you do what you like, how you pay me back.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I knew I needed help. I was tired. It was years, just years. I came to this country in 1991, and until 2014, I don't remember a day that I did not push hard.
Yeah.
It's just like you're in a survival mode for so long because you think that you should, because you're never good enough. And it's just to say, I need help.
Did
I
you
was
go
lucky
into
to get it.
treatment with that? Did you go into treatment with that, or how did that
Yes. I
Okay.
went to treatment with a lot of sadness, lots of uncertainty, lots of confusion, and lots of crying and lots of tears. But I just also knew, because please help me.
Something needed to change. You knew that deep down.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me what this looks like. This disruptive physician treatment.
I know, right? And you're in the room with brilliant people, the best in the field, the countries. It's just, I mean, awesome group of people, all burnt out, all amazing, all needed help, all surrendered to the process. After, in the beginning, many of us were angry, but then
Right.
at some point you look at each other. And here's the funny part, that when I first arrived, I was late, because I'm like, I don't know if I want to be here. I did not say I was late. I was like, I don't know if I want to be here. I don't know. It was like,
Your resistance.
Exactly. I was resisting. It's like, I knew I have to do it, but I was resisting. just something in my brain. And I walked in a room full of people, and they sat me down. And I remember 1 p.m. in this big room, and this therapist, who they called the assassin, was conducting the session. The assassin in a good way.
Okay.
He brings stuff out of you.
Okay, good.
And then just like, and I sat between people on a big couch between few guys, and
Really?
I
Oh my
can't, I remember
gosh.
like being, I think we were like 2 or 3, I think 3 females, maybe 7, 8 males, just about. And and he looked at me and I was like, "What's your story?" And I'm like, "He's strange."
You're like, I'm a disruptive physician. Thanks.
And now, of course, I'm telling my
Oh,
story and what led me here, and that conflict I had in the office, what led to this. And then I
yeah.
was like, and I'm sobbing and I'm crying, and everyone's looking at me like they've been there. Okay, each one of us who goes through trauma and go through conflict, I think we have the two sides. Okay,
Yes.
your emotional brain and your thinking brain. There's this like, this is like your
Your
higher
safety
function. It's
brain.
like they say, yes, it's conflicted. It's like
Yeah.
we become children again. Adults
Yep.
are children, like they're just big children, right? And I'm
Mhm.
like, so my emotional brain, obviously, it's the one that's trying to protect me. And that's like, okay, no, you were wrong. You like, it's like you want to be. But then my executive high functioning brain is telling me, like, you have responsibility. You
Yeah.
are responsible for part of what happened, and you have to take responsibility for it.
Okay, well,
Thank
let's
you.
get to what you work on now. So you had, or what you've done since then for
Okay.
burnout.
Yes.
Tell me.
So since then, I'm extremely mindful, and then what I discovered, every time you go to the doctor would tell you, "Oh, to live healthy, you need to exercise, eat healthy, and exercise." And I was like, "Okay, this is." I'm sorry. So why am I not happy? Why am I don't feel healthy? Why am I getting migraines? I was like, why am I getting migraines still? I eat
Yeah.
healthy and I exercise a lot. I mean, I probably exercise too much. And then I discovered, I'm like, no one talks about sleep. Very few people were talking about
Mm,
sleep. And I started to notice, as physician, obviously you don't sleep. As a mother, you don't
ever.
sleep. A
Yeah.
combination of the being physician and a mother, you just like you don't sleep. So I started to get more interested in sleep, and I started to see how my parents, my moms in my practice, the moms in my practice, how fatigued, tired they are, and how they're like becoming more reactive,
Yep.
angry at times, depressed, shut down, postpartum. And it's just like, so I start to like dig more into it, start to read more about it, and I start to work on my sleep. And that's when the real change started to happen for me. I prioritized my sleep and I learned to say no. That's when I came up, that's with the 5 pillars of optimal health. And I wrote the book. It's
Okay.
2.5 years now. It's a 5 pillars of optimal health. I mean, just what the doctor ordered, the 5 pillar of optimal health, which is sleep, emotional health, mindful eating, intentional breathing, and physical activity.
I wanted to switch gears just a little bit,
Sure.
since you are a pediatrician,
Mhm.
because I obviously work with partners
Mhm.
who are married, or are in a relationship with someone who experienced trauma,
Mhm.
usually have some childhood trauma associated with it. And I think that there's just a lot of lack of understanding, if you didn't have a traumatic past, what it does to children and their brains,
Mhm. Mhm.
and how you see this happening. And so I would love for us to kind of switch gears to little kiddos' brains and trauma, and what you've seen, how you see that in those kiddos.
Yeah. And trauma, again, does not have to be big T. Little
No,
traumas are just
it
as
doesn't.
important. Okay. And sometimes
Yes.
it's a word you hear that affects you and sticks with you and affects you negatively. And it freezes them. It freezes them. The children, just like, because they're emotional being and their brain has not, because again, they were born with the emotional brain, their executive brain is not yet developed.
What do you think we can do better as a society to help these kiddos that have these coping mechanisms from their childhood that has become destructive?
Yes, learning how to connect before you correct.
Ooh,
Learn how to connect. Yes.
before
So
you correct.
connecting. Yes. Learn how to communicate with the child. Meet them where they are. They need help. And it is our job as parents, as society, as healthcare, as educator, as everything, to be able to see, to observe. It's the power of observation and noticing, realizing there's something happening in this child's life. And then how to connect with them on their level before you take action, before you just yell at them or tell them or punish them or
Send them to therapy.
send them to therapy to learn
Yeah.
how to connect with them. It is really important. I'm guilty when my children were young because I was not mindful. I wasn't in a good place. And I want the parents to own their story and to heal themselves. You cannot connect with your child if you are not connected with yourself. You really need to, and that's my work. That's
Yeah.
what I do on social media. That's what I do in my practice. I want to empower parents to work on themselves and with their own story. Therefore, that's when they can help their children and learn how to communicate and connect with them before they correct.
That's amazing. I love that. That is amazing. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything that you've done and how you have been able to use, your rock bottom to help others. And I know that your story will help so many people who are going through the same thing. Thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. It was meaningful, very meaningful and awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much to my 3 guests. It was amazing. But before we wrap up, I wanted to leave you with my top 3 takeaways from May. These were the moments that hit me in the gut and had me nodding like, yep, been there. Number 1, you can't heal what you won't feel. Every one of these women, Andrea, Ayla, Dr. Katby, brought this truth to the table. You can't outthink your trauma. You've got to feel it, move through it, and stay with yourself in it. Real change doesn't come until you slow down enough to actually feel what you've been stuffing for years. Number 2, boundaries aren't rejection, they're repair. Whew. Ayla said something that stuck with me. When you grow up in dysfunction, setting a boundary can feel like betrayal. And wow, did that hit home. I spent years thinking saying no meant I was being selfish or cold. But the truth is, boundaries are what allowed me to finally feel safe in my own body and marriage. They're not walls, they're doors, and they help you stop repeating what hurt you in the first place. And number 3, trauma is sneaky, but so is hope. This one came up in every one of the conversations this month. Trauma hides in overgiving, in people pleasing, in the way we brace ourselves before every conversation. But what I loved, especially from Dr. Katby, is that hope is just as sneaky. It shows up in those tiny moments, the pause before reacting, the breath before speaking, the softness that wasn't there last year. In my own story, hope didn't come all at once, but looking back, I can see the breadcrumbs, the little shifts, and those added up to real healing. So if this month stirred something in you, Good. That means something's waking up. And that's the real deal. See you next week.
All right, that's a wrap for today on Love and Trauma, the real deal. Big thanks to my guests for sharing their insights. Couldn't have done it without you. Now, for those of you looking to take this journey further, I've got something special. Head to my website to grab Real Tactics, Real Healing, a survivor's playbook for navigating a relationship with a trauma survivor. It's packed with everything you need to know, do, and say to navigate the emotional minefield, find your balance, and regain your self-worth and happiness.